Your Excellency, the peoples of Yugoslavia received with great pleasure the news about conferring Jawaharlal Nehru Award for International Understanding on our President Tito. They consider it as a recognition for his long-standing and persistent work on creation of better and just relations in the world. Could you please explain for our viewers the meaning of this award and its main objectives?
This award is given in recognition of the role played by President Tito in the international life, in pursuing an independent policy situated geopolitically in a difficult area in the world, in Europe. When Europe was divided into blocs, it was President Tito's Yugoslavia that maintained an independent, non-aligned policy. Apart from that, in different parts of the world, President Tito has stood like a rock in favor of just causes, for ending colonialism, and also for doing justice to the developing countries in the political and economic field. And it is in recognition of the great role played by President Tito in the international life, in strengthening the forces of peace, detente, relaxation of tension, that this award is being conferred on President Tito. We know that President Tito, along with Jawaharlal Nehru and President Nasser, were the main architects of the concept of non-alignment, a concept which consolidates the forces of peace, consolidate the independence of the developing world, and opens up the possibility of cooperation amongst the developing countries. And it is in recognition of these high services that this award is being conferred on President Tito.
The Indo-Yugoslav relations for many years have been an example of excellent cooperations between two countries. This cooperation has been even strengthened through the common actions between the non-aligned countries. Can you please tell us, how do you view these relations in these moments when we are expecting the visit of our president here in India?
I need hardly say that President Tito enjoys a special place of affection and respect amongst the people of India. The respect enjoyed by President Tito is not confined only to government circles or to party circles, but the people of India as a whole have great admiration for the great role that President Tito has played. The relations between India and Yugoslavia, ever since India's independence, have been close, cordial, friendly, and based on mutual interest and cooperation between our two countries. There have been exchange of visits at very high level. President Tito has visited our country more than once, and every time that he has come to India, he has endeared himself to us in government and to the people in India for his wisdom, for his maturity, and for his dedication to peace and for helping the non-aligned and developing countries. As such, and there have been visits from the Indian leaders also to Yugoslavia, friendly Yugoslavia. Our prime ministers, Jawaharlal Nehru, Lal Bahadur Shastri, our present Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, all of them have visited your country. Our presidents have visited your country, our several ministers have visited your countries. On bilateral relations, therefore, the relations between our two countries are very friendly and are very cooperative. Again, in international forums, the delegations of India and Yugoslavia always work in close cooperation in the interest of peace and in safeguarding the interest of the developing countries. So in the non-aligned conferences, in the United Nations, and in several other international forums, say like UNCTAD or ECOSOC, this excellent cooperation between our two delegations has strengthened the relations between our two countries. Our bilateral relations in the political field, in the economic and technological field are excellent. And this mutual desire on the two sides to strengthen relations is something ideal, because it is based on mutual interest and also in the interest of stabilizing the forces of peace and strengthening the forces of progress in the world.
A few days ago, a new agreement for economic cooperation was signed between Yugoslavia and India, foreseeing an increase in the trade exchange to a level of $100 million for this year. That's a good step forward, but do you think that there are not even greater possibilities on this field?
We were very happy when this new agreement was arrived at as a result of the talks between our commerce minister and your ministers. And it is good so far as it goes, but I agree that there are scopes of greater cooperation between our two countries, and the level of economic cooperation can certainly be upgraded. But we must keep this in view, that there was a temporary setback in our economic relationship when Yugoslavia took a decision to alter their pattern of the payment system. And that temporary upset, I believe, will now be got over as a result of the present agreement, and a way will be opened for raising the actual quantum of economic cooperation between our two countries. There are good possibilities of increasing this cooperation on strictly bilateral basis, and also in projecting our efforts jointly in third countries.
Answering on the previous questions, you already mentioned the non-aligned policy, whose vitality and importance is gaining in strength, which is confirmed by the latest movements in the world's policy. Which, by your opinion, are the main results of this policy after the Algiers meeting and its perspectives?
The Algiers meeting, which was attended by your respected President Tito, and also by our Prime Minister, provided an opportunity where the non-aligned group of countries were able to review the political situation in the international sphere, and they also had an opportunity of assessing the cooperation amongst the non-aligned countries in the economic field. And the two documents, one in the political field and the other in the economic field, are very significant documents. So far as agreements on principle are concerned, I think everything is covered in those documents. So most important thing that has now to be done by the non-aligned group of countries is to take energetic steps to implement what has been agreed upon. And in such cases, implementation is more difficult. If proper attention is now devoted to pick up specific matters covered by the political document, and also to pick up special programs to implement the economic charter, then great progress can be made to strengthen the cooperation amongst the non-aligned countries, which I believe will be in the interest of all these countries in the economic field. It's a happy thought that in Arab-Israel conflict, the group of non-aligned countries in the United Nations General Assembly and also in the Security Council worked together in a cooperative spirit in the Algiers tradition, and were able to project the image of the non-aligned countries in a positive manner. Great deal can be done by carrying forward the message which was given in Algiers by the leadership.
It is well known that one of the main preoccupations of the Indian government is faster economic and social development of the country. Emphasis is placed on self-reliance and mobilization of the enormous internal potentials. Could you tell us what are the response of the developed countries in assisting India in its efforts?
We are going ahead with our progress and development in a planned manner. And we have formulated the broad outlines and the contours of our next 5-year plan. We are aware of the fact that the main burden of implementing this plan will have to be carried by us. Our own assessment is that more than about 90% of the resources that are required to fulfill the targets of our development program will have to be found by India, from Indian resources. Still, we will depend on some help from outside, not only financial but in the technological field. And we are now exploring the possibility of getting this help in the form of credits or in the form of technological know-how from several developed countries, from the socialist group of countries and also from Western European and American countries. This response varies from country to country, but broadly I can say that, knowing full well that the main burden is carried by India itself, there is willingness on the part of the developed countries who are whether socialist, with socialist economies, or the West European or American societies. We feel that some help will be available depending upon the manner in which we negotiate this with the countries concerned.
I would like to ask you something about the situation on the Indian subcontinent. Although some results have been achieved after a similar meeting, the situation is still to be improved. Could you tell us what are the possibilities for the normalization of the situation on the subcontinent?
The Simla Agreement provided the framework for normalization of relations between the three countries in the Indian subcontinent. This was followed by the actual withdrawal of troops to one side. It also resulted in delineating by mutual agreement a new line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. After the Simla Agreement, again the two sides met in Delhi and concluded the well-known Delhi Agreement, according to which repatriation of three categories of persons was agreed upon. And I am glad to say that about 170,000 persons of these three categories have already been repatriated, and this repatriation is going on. The main philosophy behind this agreement is that persons who find themselves at the end of the war in countries other than their own should be enabled to return to their countries. And this is a humanitarian problem, and it is being pursued in that direction. We have already made moves to take further steps for increasing economic cooperation, for restoring the lines of communication and overflights, and in a general way to normalize relations between the three countries. But for things to improve in a significant manner, it is very necessary that the reality of Bangladesh should be recognized by Pakistan. Bangladesh now, which is recognized by more than about 110 countries of the international community, but somehow or other Pakistan has not yet been able to accord recognition to Bangladesh. This is a negative factor in the situation, and the sooner Pakistan does away with this negative factor, the greater will be the speed with which normalization can stabilize in this part of the world.
Your Excellency, India is in a sensitive area where different interests are present. How do you judge the situation in the Indian Ocean and widely in South Asia?
I do not know if India is really in any sensitive area. India has a big population, and we believe that the outside countries should not have any interest except one, to see that India is allowed and the countries in this region are encouraged to take their own decisions. So the less the interest is taken by any outside powers, the better it is for us, for India and for other countries in the region. Coming to Indian Ocean, there is overwhelming majority in favor of Indian Ocean being kept as an area of peace and tranquility. When I say overwhelming majority, I mean the literal countries who have got their shores on the Indian Ocean, whether it is the African countries or the Asian countries or even Australia. The very large number of countries who have their shores on the Indian Ocean, they are strongly in favor of Indian Ocean being kept as an area of peace and tranquility. This has been supported by a resolution of the UN General Assembly also. And we ourselves, along with Sri Lanka, are strongly in favor of this. The latest voice in this favor is that of Australia also. And China also in principle has agreed to support this idea. And we notice that there is growing awareness amongst the stronger countries, stronger from the naval point of view also, to respond positively to the susceptibilities of the little countries. And if a suitable dialogue could be started amongst the strong naval powers of the world, a situation can be created where Indian Ocean emerges as an area of peace and tranquility.
Mr. Singh, thank you very much for